It's true, it's been a tremendous four-way battle between those machines, but along with the monster trucks, we have the final super modified class mud championship of the U.S. ABBOTT Association season.
Len Wieniewski, Warren Weaver, Tom Mintz, Tom Martin. It's going to be a heck of a night.
That's true, including the world champ Tom Martin with really a gentleman new to the U.S. ABBOTT Association trail that could knock down the world titleist.
And we're going to see a lot more of that later.
That's true. A brand new Team Valvoline Jeep buddy car that may threaten the biggest names of this business. But indeed, we'll be back with the start of the Battle of the Monster Trucks with Bigfoot and Barefoot in just a moment at the Baltimore Arena for the U.S. ABBOTT Association Mud Racing and Monster Truck Spectacular. Along with Shelley Herman. And Shelley, we're getting ready to kick things off with monster truck racing here at the arena.
And this is the competition that the fans have come here to see. Bigfoot, Barefoot, head-to-head for the last time this season.
That's true, along with Jake Henke's incredible Aces High, Chevy El Camino from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Vienna, Ohio's Gary Bauer in the Lone Ranger Ford. Now, if you see our course down there on the floor of the Baltimore Arena, it's a pretty simple object. At the top of your screen, you see the starting line area. It's a straight pass down about 95 feet or so to a 17-foot wide left-hand U-turn. The machines have got to take that turn relatively fast, then line up for the hit on the 5 junk cars you see on the floor. The first machine to land, his front wheels on the ground across the finish line, gets an elapsed time, and of course it is an elapsed time competition. After each of our 4 competitors has made 1 lap around this track, the 2 quickest elapsed times will come back for the final round. And here's Jake Henke of the incredible Aces High Chevy El Camino to start things off tonight. A beautiful piece of equipment. A supercharged carbureted small block Chevrolet in this 1972 Chevy El Camino. The machine in hard throttle stance, as you can see, actually bending the sidewalls of those tires. Now comes around for the hit. Good run for Jake. Airborne and landing on the concrete. The crowd goes nuts. That is the farthest jump we've seen, Shelley.
That's the way it should be done. He got the height, but yet he was able to maintain control of the vehicle the whole time.
Well, I'll tell you, that was pretty much of an upset, I think. I think a lot of people expected Jake Henke's Aces High El Camino to be a little bit slower than that, but the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania driver definitely proved him wrong. As we look at the replay, on for Jake Henke. On the starting line now from Vienna, Ohio, this is Gary Bauer's incredible Lone Ranger, Ford Ranger, and indeed one of the prettiest monster trucks in the business, one of the first of the mini truck monster machines, the downsized body on top of the 16,000-pound chassis. There's the green flag. Bauer nails the throttle and heads into the first turn. This hard U-turn is an awfully difficult proposition to make in any monster machine. In fact, Bauer slowing down quite a bit to try and line up to these cars. There you see the hit, but still not nearly as much speed as he would have liked. And with that 13.06 second elapsed time up from Aces High, I don't think Gary made much of a dent in that, Shelley.
I'm afraid he didn't. He didn't get nearly the height he needed to make up the time for that slow start.
Well, on the replay, you can see it took a lot of time trying to line up for the actual hit. Got a lot of air there, and that is not necessarily good in a timed course event. Landing real hard, the elapsed time, 18.32 seconds, almost 2 seconds slower than Jake Henke's Aces High Chevrolet, so the El Camino still has the #1 spot.
This man is out to get Bigfoot tonight, and if anybody can do it, it can be Freddie Schaefer. We've seen him before. He's a darn good driver.
This particular machine is brand new, of course. Although they're saying it weighs 12,000 pounds, it's closer to 8,000. An all-fiberglass Chevrolet pickup truck body and one of those patented Barefoot supercharged fuel-injected methanol-burning engines, and, of course, the brand new Goodyear heavy equipment tires used on golf courses. The machine leaves the starting line. Those treadless, basically, tires take that turn awfully hard. Schaefer now gets on the throttle, lining himself up for the cars. Let's see how his hit is. Beautiful launch, hitting on car number 4, getting a little bit nose heavy there coming down, but a beautiful, beautiful run. I think, Shelley, that will probably take the #1 spot. Here you see this incredible 6 seconds by 4 seconds, #1 for the Chevrolet. And here's the man that wants Freddie Schaefer. As we pointed out at the beginning of the show, these two have been literally at each other's throats for the 1989 season. And more times than not, Jim Kramer in the inimitable Bigfoot team machine has come out on top. But that's one of the reasons, Shelley, that Freddie Schaefer built that lightweight fiberglass Barefoot machine.
And even though they're both big blue trucks, there's substantial differences in them. The most obvious right now is looking at the tires.
These are, of course, the military flotation tires that have become so popular in monster truck racing and basically have been used from the very beginning. Freddie Schaefer is really the first to go to those basically treadless heavy equipment tires that we just saw. Of course, the big difference between Bigfoot right now and Freddie Schaefer's Barefoot Chevrolet is weight. This is still an all-steel Ford truck. It still weighs in at about 15,000 pounds, almost twice the weight of that fiberglass Chevy. There's the green flag from Joe Quinterno. And now Jim Kramer hangs on as he takes Bigfoot into the turn as hard as possible. Now lining up for the hit. The big blue Ford down close to the ground. That's the way he wanted it. You can see Kramer taking a rough ride in that cockpit, but that may have been enough to threaten the Chevrolet, Shelley. Seconds, 33 hundredths of a second quicker than Freddie Schaefer. So that will bring Bigfoot and Barefoot into the final round as the two quickest elapsed times, and we'll be back to see the championship bout in Baltimore, Maryland at the U.S. ABBOTT Association Mud Racing and Monster Truck Spectacular in a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Baltimore, Maryland's Baltimore Arena as we continue with the season finale, basically, for the U.S. ABBOTT Association Monster Truck and Mud Racing Spectacular Series. Here's Freddie Schaefer lining up on the starting line with the incredible new all-fiberglass Chevrolet Barefoot truck from Granite City, Illinois. Actually, the small suburb of Granite City called Pontoon Beach. A handshake with our event director, Jim Harris. This is for all the marbles. The quickest elapsed time in this battle will take the championship. Bouncing around a little bit after nailing the throttle on the green flag. Red spins it perfectly around, lines it up on the cars. Good solid hit, clearing all 5 cars, and the crowd goes nuts. Now, Shelley, his preliminary elapsed time was 12.46 seconds. How did you think that looked? I think he's going to beat that time, and that should be a personal best for him, too. He really maintained control of the vehicle the whole time, and boy, did it fly. 7 seconds. Number one by almost a half a second. Out for it. Well, now it's up to this man, Shelley. Jim Kramer has got to take the Bigfoot Ford around this course in less than 11.77 seconds to win it. You know, we talk about the fact that each of these vehicles is capable of doing tremendous things, but no vehicle is good unless they've got a good driver behind the wheel. Well, this is the #1 team driver for the Bigfoot operation out of St. Louis, Missouri. Bob Chandler literally trained Jim Kramer from the very beginning of the Bigfoot legacy. This guy's been doing this now about 10 years. He is one of the veterans, literally one of the legends of Bigfoot racing, Bigfoot and monster truck racing. Tremendously fast first leg, and now taking it as hard as he can into the turns. Again, a little bit wide, back into the throttle. Good lead across the finish line, really very less violently than we saw Barefoot. Does that have to do with the fact that these cars have been crushed a few times and that aerodynamically the ride would be easier for him? Well, there's no question that once the cars have been packed down a little bit, the drivers after the first couple of trucks have a little bit easier time to take it over those cars. Here you see Kramer go wide, trying to keep the machine lined up with the cars, hanging out of the driver's side window, trying to make sure it's lined up properly without ever getting into the throttle. Here comes the hit. Good airborne shot, but not too high, like we said. As he lands hard, throwing him around in the cockpit, he had to run quicker than 11.77. Bigfoot and Jim Kramer runs 11.69 seconds. By 8 hundredths of a second, that man took the win. The crowd loves every minute of it. Well, it looks like Jim Kramer may give the fans an extra treat here. Since he is the winner, there we go. A big wheel stand for the Bigfoot fans out there as the machine that started it all and is still continuing the winning tradition takes a ride in victory lane. The Battle of the Monster Trucks may be over, but we've got a lot more action to come as the super modified mud racers, the fastest indoor racers in the world, get ready for their action. We'll be back with championship mud racing from Baltimore, Maryland's Baltimore Arena in just a moment. Maryland's Baltimore Arena, and now the quickest and fastest indoor motorsports machines in the world get ready to do battle. This is the super modified mud racing category and the 1989 season championship battle. This is the last event in which points will be awarded towards the season world championship on the U.S. ABBOTT Association Trail. And the man who has drawn the first starting position for this 36-inch deep, 80-foot long pit is one of the newest superstars of 1989. This is the young man who started things off so wildly in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the beginning of the year, and now has turned into one of the strongest drivers of the season. The fuel-injected, supercharged, methanol-burning, Chevrolet-powered 1932 Ford Coupe of Paxton, Illinois' Tom Mintz, and the machine called Shake Me, Shelley.
You couldn't have found a better driver to start things off this evening. If anybody can set the pace for this evening, it's Tom, and he's guaranteed to give a wild ride, provided he stays us all four wheels on the ground.
That's true, and that's something that occasionally Tom has trouble doing with this 1,500 horsepower machine. It's a very good point, though, with the way the mud is, a very, very sticky, very thick mud consistency at this particular course. This machine could set an elapsed time pace that could be impossible to beat tonight. Remember, on the 80-foot pit distance, the U.S. Hot Rod Association's national elapsed time record is 1.95 seconds, and we've only ever had 4 drivers under the 2-second flat mark. But this youngster, 21 years old, who has done so well in his rookie year, this incredibly powerful piece of equipment takes the green flag to start things off. Tremendous launch, tremendous run, and what a ride to kick things off, powering himself out of that pit. It looked like a picture-perfect pass, Shelley. Look at this thing blasting across the finish line, and it looks like Tom may have gotten out of the throttle. You can't even see it there. Just a shower of mud and water. And indeed, Randy Spraggins, the man who built this track, put a little extra slowing area into the shutdown. The elapsed time, 2.31 seconds. And, Shelley, that's not as good as we might have anticipated. Well, Shelley, here you see something that's of concern to each and every driver. These 2 pylons mark the end of the official timed area. A driver has to stop before those pylons or he will be disqualified. Brand new rule in championship mud racing, but it has really made things interesting. These drivers know that they have to run full throttle down to the finish line, but now there's an extra chore in getting it stopped, and that's strictly from a safety perspective at U.S. Hot Rod Association national events.
We have another way to help slow them down, too. When they get to the end of the pit, it's going to take a little bit of a dip, and I think we're going to see some mud be flung tonight.
That's something that Randy Spraggins of Specialty Tracks, the man who constructs these incredible mud pits, put in there tonight just to help slow them down, and it certainly has worked. Doing the driving is Preston Ward of this incredible 1932 Ford 3-window coupe called the Mystic Warrior. This is a pretty interesting father-son team, Shelley.
It sure is, and it's only going to get better. His son turned 16 in January of this year and is going to start racing on some outdoor circuits, so we're going to have some father and son competition coming up.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Matt, his father, who is a 1985 U.S. Hot Rod Association World Points Champion in the unlimited category, is doing the driving. But Matt owns this vehicle. In fact, 15-year-old Matt put this thing together with his own 2 hands and has Dad, and what better choice than a past world champion, doing the driving. This machine uses a fuel-injected methanol-burning, nitrous oxide-injected, 514 cubic inch Ford. You can see the blue NOS nitrous oxide cylinder in the front of this machine that's sending extra oxygen to the vehicle. Leaving the starting line beautifully, this machine may have just made its career best run, and Matt is thrilled with that effort. The mark to beat, 2.31 seconds. The beautiful Mystic Warrior looked like it was full throttle past the finish line. That may have been good enough to challenge Tom Mintz for the #1 spot. Just skimming past the finish line. Then he hits that dip that helps slow these machines down. The elapsed time, 2.56 seconds. And here's our next competitor on the starting line, Will Sutherland. The Weekend Warrior Jeep CJ funny car, utilizing, of all things, Shelley, a 401 AMC Rambler motor. That's something you don't see too much anymore in this business at all.
Or hear about much anywhere.
That's the motor these machines came equipped with. And see what it does. A carbureted gas-burning machine plowing through the mud, and finally Will makes it. The Seven Valleys Maryland racer takes it through without nitrous oxide, fuel injection, or a supercharger. And that's pretty impressive. On the replay, you can see the machine didn't have any tire spin, and that's certainly to his advantage. Actually, it may have helped a little bit to get some wheel speed up, but as you can see, Will Sutherland, gritting his teeth there, just plows through the pit. Actually, very close to the outer boundary there of the left-hand side of your screen. The elapsed time, 3.90 seconds. We'll put him right now in the #3 spot. Well, Shelley Herman, here's a machine that has been absolutely awesome since this driver switched to a supercharged power plant. This is Jeff Sturkin out of Holland, Michigan, and the extended wheelbase Chevy S10 pickup he calls Ground Zero. The Zeeland Motor Supply Chevy S10 on the line and ready. A supercharged, fuel-injected, methanol-burning small block 350 cubic inch Chevrolet, bored out to 372 cubic inches. And this thing has been making a ton of power since going to the blown motor. The 25-year-old leaves the line beautifully. Tremendous run. Absolutely the best pass Jeff Sturkin has ever made in the Ground Zero S10. Amazing run.
Boy, I'm glad I didn't blink, or I might have missed that.
I'll tell you, if anybody has knocked Tom Mintz in the Shake Me 32 Ford out of the #1 spot, there you see the crewman shaking hands. Man,
they know.
What a ride. Here's the launch. Absolutely perfect. Now watch the front wheels start to come up. He's using them to steer through the ruts, but other than that, the rear tires are putting the horsepower down. Now he shuts it down almost again, hitting that left side boundary. That's going to be a problem. The elapsed time, 2.35 seconds. Believe it or not, 0.04 of a second behind the #1 2.31 second pass of Tom Mintz. Look at that thing rocket across the finish line. Unreal. Well, with that incredible effort, remember, we still have world champion Tom Martin in the Mud Patrol to go. His arch rival Tom Mintz in the Shake Me Ford is leading this program, so the world titleist is going to be out for blood. We'll be back with more U.S. Auto Association Championship Mud Racing and Monster Truck action after these messages. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Baltimore, Maryland's Baltimore Arena, where a packed house of race fans await the next machines up in the U.S. Auto Association season finale for Monster Truck and Mud Racing Spectacular Series. On the starting line, this is the machine that, during preliminaries, tied world champion Tom Martin's best effort. If he can get this thing through the pit under power and straight, Shelley, Lord knows how quick he's going to go.
You know, part of the commitment that he's made to Valvoline in order to have Valvoline sponsor this car is he's involved with the Just Say No to Drugs program for kids. And this car is going to be traveling around the country for the kids to see on different promotional activities. And it's nice to see a real positive tie-in like that.
I'll tell you, it's an amazing team effort. But remember, the U.S. Auto Association national record for 80-foot-long pits, 1.95 seconds, may be in jeopardy. Randy Moore, a veteran of championship mud racing, but he's never created anything like this before. Absolutely incredible. The 4-star racing chassis sponsored and created Team Valvoline Jeep Funny Car. A little bit of an odd angle on the starting line. Hopefully that will not keep him from progressing straight. Tremendous launch, but powering through the mud with the left front wheel in the air. Unfortunately, it looked like the right front tire, actually from the driver's standpoint, was not getting power. We'll have to wait till we see the replay to see if that was a problem. But the machine dug deep into the pit, and that should not have happened because this is a very lightweight vehicle, 2,150 pounds. On the slow motion replay, let's see if we can. U.S. Auto Association National Event Trail. Randy Moore and the Team Valvoline Jeep created what many people may believe to be the most incredible mud racer ever. A fuel-injected, methanol-burning, nitrous oxide-injected 541 cubic inch Chevrolet in a 1932 Ford 5-window fiberglass coupe. Shelley, you can't say enough about this guy.
Well, I can say a little bit more. This guy is so cool. Back in the tunnel before the show, he's very methodical about everything. He takes his time to line up the car, make sure all the gauges are doing what they should. He just doesn't go out there and take chances. He's very deliberate at what he does.
It's a very, very good analogy of this young man. In fact, one of his trademarks is that he sits on the starting line for quite a while, even after the green flag is thrown. Remember, the clocks don't start until the vehicle actually moves, waiting to build up engine temperature. He's a firm believer in leaving the starting line with the engine at the exact same heat level each and every run. And you'll see him sit up there and just watch that gauge, letting the engine idle and build up a little bit of heat. And remember that too much heat in the engine will give you too much power. You'll spin the tires. Too little heat, the machine won't have enough power to get off the starting line. He knows exactly where this machine should be. The mark to beat. Great pass, shutting off maybe a little bit early, throwing mud everywhere. He was trying to get away cleanly off the starting line without tire spin that would slow him down. It looked like he spun the tires just a little bit, but I think it may have been a good enough pass.
And we should point out that isn't smoke. That's just steam that you see rising. That's not a problem there.
It's true. Most of that steam is caused by the wet mud hitting the hot exhaust headers. It's just basically like throwing the stuff in a frying pan. Tom Martin, the 375-pound world champion. 2.18. And Tom Martin takes over the #1 spot again. The incredible Mud Patrol. And there's the look of the world champion when he knows he's been in the #1 spot. The big smile from the big guy.
And boy, is his pit crew going to be happy. His mom and dad, John and Norma.
That's right. Well, Shelley Herman, here is a machine that has been one of the most frightening to watch during our U.S. ABBOTT Association National Event season. A relatively new vehicle. It debuted on New Year's Eve weekend at the first event of the year in 1989 in Salem, Virginia. And now is back on the East Coast to wrap up the season. This is Ron Smith out of Schoolcraft, Michigan, driving a machine called Gold Fever. This was one of the first of the 1948 Fiat Topolino drag racing style Alders that we saw on the U.S. ABBOTT Association Trail, and one of the most powerful, a supercharged, fuel-injected, methanol-burning 490 cubic inch Chevrolet rat motor. The biggest problem for Ron Smith has been keeping this machine in the pit.
That's especially important because, like we said earlier, if you go outside those pylons that are set up, no matter how good a time, you're disqualified.
And, of course, the banners that go down each side of this pit mark the outer boundary lines. You go outside of that, you're also disqualified. It's been one of the most ill-handling vehicles of the year, mainly because of its tremendous horsepower, not because of the chassis. A good starting line launch, though, this time, and Ron Smith, oh, I don't believe it. And I'll tell you, that is a big, big disappointment. And you can see even Ron Smith knows it's a big disappointment. That is the first time that vehicle has made a straight full throttle run. And indeed, the machine is disqualified for going out of bounds out the back. Would have been good for number one. 2.06 seconds could have taken over the lead, but he is disqualified, and he is upset. And here's something you don't see in motor racing very much, Shelley. How about a 1987 IROC C28 Camaro in the mud?
This car takes some of the wildest rides we've seen throughout this circuit, and this evening promises to be no exception.
It's true. The machine has a tremendous amount of power, considering the fact that it is a small block Chevrolet, fuel injected using nitrous oxide injection. Only a 383 cubic inch power plant. The machine weighs about 300 pounds more than most of the vehicles out there. But the driver, 24-year-old Mike Behrman out of Holland, Michigan, manages to keep this thing amazingly competitive. It's a solid 2-second vehicle. On the line, Behrman brings the RPMs up. A little 383 cubic inch small block Chevrolet clears out the throttle and now gets ready to take the green flag. Good starting line launch. Excellent run for the Holland, Michigan Camaro. As a matter of fact, I think that's probably the best weight transfer we've seen on that machine. A very unusual cut in the tread of those front tires, as you can see, Shelley.
Doesn't look like there's much to them there at all.
The elapsed time of the run, 2.69 seconds. That's good enough for fifth and a career best in the 80-foot-long pit for Mike Behrman's Camaro. Well, tremendous action so far, but believe me when I tell you there is more to come. And we'll be back at Baltimore, Maryland's Baltimore Arena with more U.S. ABBOTT Association Championship mud racing and monster truck action in just a moment. We're back to Baltimore, Maryland's Baltimore Arena as the U.S. ABBOTT Association Monster Truck and Mud Racing Spectacular continues. We are in the super modified mud racing category. From Cochranville, Pennsylvania, this is Charlie Stoltzfus, the 27-year-old, doing the driving of this 1967 Ford Bronco. The Red Rebel machine with the stars and bars over the roll cage, as you can see, a 466 cubic inch Ford wedge motor, fuel injected, no nitrous oxide in this machine, and interestingly enough, an automatic transmission. This category, the Super Modified Division, is unique in the sense that there is a limit only on tire size. Anything else goes. Vehicle weight, vehicle length, the size of engine as far as cubic inch displacement is concerned, any modifications to those power plant. The only major rule, other than, of course, the stringent safety regulations from the U.S. ABBOTT Association, is the fact that these machines must use Department of Transportation approved street legal tires no taller than 44 inches. Now, the drivers can alter the tread on these tires. You can see, in fact, that Stoltzfus in the Red Rebel machine has altered the tread on these groundhog tires substantially. As a matter of fact, that's a lot of the personality in this category, is the different tread patterns. Stoltzfus leaves the starting line. He's got a good run going, bouncing off the right-hand side, as the driver would see it, firm, as they say, the boundary line or wall on the side of the 2.75 seconds. That is good right now for sixth. The next machine moving up into the staging area is one of the best in the U.S. ABBOTT Association National Event Trail, the 1984 and 1985 World Points Champion. This is Dave Ray from Plaistow, New Hampshire, with an NOS nitrous oxide injected, carbureted, gas-burning 514 cubic inch Ford wedge. This 88 Ford Ranger called Midnight Magic is all fiberglass. It weighs about 300 pounds more than most of the killers, but it's still a threat to win any event. One of the strongest Fords ever, and certainly the quickest and fastest full-bodied Ford truck in U.S. ABBOTT Association racing. A great pass again. Ray on the brakes and stops before the... Oh, he did not stop before the pylons. It looks like he was just a few inches over the mandatory shutdown area. You know, Shelley, the pylons have definitely created a whole new dimension to this sport of mud racing, and Dave Ray looks like he just got caught by a few inches, but the line is the line. You will be disqualified if you go past that area. Here it is on the slow motion replay. Absolutely flawless launch. He hit half. The elapsed time, 2.52 seconds. Would have been good enough for one of the top 5 spots. Great shot of this machine blasting across the finish line under power. Now we'll be able to see how much he missed the pylon margin by. Locks up the brakes coming up and out of the pit. Here come the pylons.
Yikes.
2 feet. 2 feet too far, and David Ray is disqualified. One of the most unique body styles ever created, not only for mud racing, but I think in any type of racing outside of possibly national championship road racing. This is a Fiat X19 bodied mud racer from the little tiny town just outside of Allentown, Pennsylvania, known as Mass. This is the beautiful purple machine called Plum Crazy. I guess I didn't need to point that out, did I? Trog Baker right now with his arms up to let the starting line crew know that he is not touching any controls as they hook up the mandatory kill switch and tow cable, which, of course, Shelley, we should probably point out, shuts the engines down on these machines at the finish line.
That's just one of the safety features that the U.S. Hot Rod Association has demanded that the drivers have, along with some very, very good roll bars, roll cages inside each of the vehicles, because, after all, safety is the most important thing here.
Without a doubt. There is nothing more important than the safety of the drivers, the fans, and the officials. The U.S. ABBOTT Association has gone to great lengths, since they indeed lead the way in the sanctioning of these particular mud racing events, to ensure that this sport progresses on a safety level just as much as it has on a performance level. A Fiat X19 machine utilizing a 525 cubic inch big block Chevrolet, fuel injected, burning methanol, using a 2-speed power glide transmission. Trog's machine has broken into the 2-second zone. On occasion, he is looking for a run quicker than 280, his best. And it's not going to come this time around, just plowing through the mud. Certainly not the objective in the super modified class, where the idea is to skip across the top of the mud, not drive through it. And Trog Baker, I'm afraid, will be stuck with a 3-second elapsed time on this pass. On the slow motion replay, let's see how long it took for the mud to sling. Yeah, it took an awful good for very much at this point.
This next vehicle you might recognize by name only. He's the Mudmaster. Now, the name is the same, but the vehicle has changed. And Brett, tell us about it.
I'll tell you, this machine is brand new. This team, Butch Groft and family with the Mudmaster machine from Mount Airy, Maryland, have switched from their Jeep funny car to another one of these 1932 Fords that have become so popular since world champion Tom Martin made them popular. Now, they just finished this thing about 5 hours before the show started. The team has not had any sleep for literally about 40 hours. This is the first time ever in the mud for the new Mudmaster, leaving the starting line with no power to speak of. And if I had to guess, I'd say the nitrous oxide system never did kick in on that run. In fact, Butch may not have used it. A lot of mud slinging up at the end of that pass, but it is not going to be enough to threaten the leaders. If we see the replay, I think we're going to see one of the laziest starting line launches we've seen so far at this event. Will not put him up there with the leaders. Here's the replay, a little bit sideways. The 23-year-old doing his best to manhandle the machine. It finally comes up on top of the mud past the finish line, and then it's a wall of brown out there. Well, tremendous action so far, but believe me when I tell you there is more to come. And we'll be back at Baltimore, Maryland's Baltimore Arena with more U.S. ABBOTT Association Championship mud racing and monster truck action. It's just and gentlemen at Baltimore Arena in Baltimore, Maryland for more U.S. ABBOTT Association Championship mud racing at the season finale for the 1989 season. I'm Brett Kepner along with Shelley Herbert. This is the Agitator 1987 Jeep CJ5 fiberglass funny car utilizing a supercharged 454 cubic inch Chevrolet. Fuel injected, of course, burning methanol. It's slightly heavy, but only because it has an extremely reinforced frame. These guys believe in strength above all else. 2,400-pound Jeep funny car, but this is another vehicle, Shelley, that with the right launch, good pass down through, could indeed threaten the leader, Tom Martin.
I'm just amazed at the weight of some of these vehicles, just how they guts it through the mud. You see those back tires really digging in.
There you see Lee Holtz, the 24-year-old behind the wheel, holding his hands up again as the ground crew hooks up that kill switch that will automatically shut the engine down at the finish line. And now gets the signal to drop that face shield and get ready for a pass. The mark to beat, 2.18 seconds. The world champ Tom Martin leads. Let's see what Lee Holtz in the Agitator Jeep Funny Car can come up with. Great launch up on top of the mud and a beautiful ride. Possibly the best ever for Lee Holtz. That was a heck of a ride. A little bit of a bog off the starting line, but other than that, flawless. On the 1-3 seconds. And Lee Holtz has upset the best in the business to take number one, Shelley.
And to do that this late in the game with these ruts that you can see that are in the bog now, that is quite an accomplishment.
Absolutely incredible. Like I said, they just went to a supercharger, like you said, for him to get over those ruts. It's a driving statement right there. Lee Holtz of the Agitator steals the number one spot from the world champion, and the crowd can't believe it. Our next vehicle up from PRESTON, New Hampshire, is being driven by Bill Bartlett. It's called Moonlighting. Indeed, this machine was very, very strong with a small block Ford engine for many years, but for this event, the very last one of the year, a 478 cubic inch Ford big block with nitrous oxide injection. And Bartlett really has not had a chance to test this thing. During the preliminaries, he didn't get a very good pass in at all. I will be honest with you, Shelley, this thing was a 2-second campaigner with a small block in it. And Bartlett makes it all the way through, but not in the time that he would have liked. I'll tell you that. It didn't look like he had the starting line launch that he needed. Again, not the power response we've come to expect from this particular vehicle, and he may have elected not to use nitrous oxide off the starting line. Now, the starting line replay from another angle, you can watch that far side front tire just dig in, and that kept Bill Bartlett plowing through that pit. You can see the right-hand side of the machine, or left-hand side, I should say, got up out of the mud before the finish line, but by that time it was way too late. And carbureted 572 cubic inch Chevrolet power plant. Machine that had a career best during preliminaries at this event of 2.67 seconds. And the upsets we've seen, we don't have to worry about an upset on this one as he slogs through the mud. It'll be in the 3-second zone, and Spinner will not have a leg to stand on in the final standings here at Baltimore. 6.3 seconds for New Hampshire's Mike Spinner. The Dreamweaver on the start. Staging up, waiting for the green flag, Warren Weaver, the Pennsylvania pilot. Thumbs up, now leaves the starting line, but down on power in a big, big way. He manages to keep progress up enough to take it through the pit, but that elapsed time isn't going to help him at all in a chance for the championship.
That's really a shame, too, because he's one of the guys that really pitches in and helps everybody out around here, too. And I'm sorry.
Difficult for the drivers coming down in the lower drawing positions. In any case, we've got more U.S. Off-Road Association. We're back, ladies and gentlemen, for the U.S. Off-Road Association Season Finale Championship Monster Truck and Mud Race Spectacular. Brett Kebner along with Shelley Herbert as we continue in the Super Modified Mud Racing category. Hello, the starting line next, another one of the Ford Bronco-bodied machines that were so popular at the outset of this Ford 15 years ago. This is the one and only Total Obsession machine campaigned by Steve Abbott and Buster Merrill. Machine out of Port Kingston, New Hampshire.
Total Obsession is being driven tonight by Steve Abbott.
Al Abbott will be handling this Ford Bronco with, of all things, a 427 Chevy Rat motor underneath the hood. The machine uses carburetors and gasoline along with nitrous oxide injection. And again, these lightweight machines are always competitive. As a matter of fact, this is one of the first of the dual-duty on-road and off-road street trucks, probably the first after the fabled Willys Jeep that made it through World War II and developed a reputation from there. The Chevrolet-powered Ford Bronco, originally campaigned with a small block, now with a big block Chevrolet. Makes it through the pit in fine style. As a matter of fact, for this late in the game, that elapsed time will probably get him into about the 2.8 second zone. Next time, however, and here again, you can see the tire spin. Boy, just slinging mud everywhere, trying to get back up on top of the mud, and he finally accomplishes that. But at the point that he did, it was far too late. Like I said, that 3.09 second elapsed time won't help Steve Abbott a bit. Well, here is a driver who has been with the U.S. Off-Road Association National Event Trail since its inception more than 6 years ago. This is Jose Souza from Danbury, Connecticut. And Shelley, this guy used to show up at the very first of U.S. Off-Road Association's championship events in the Northeast with a street-legal Blazer. And now he has finally stepped up to a state-of-the-art Jeep Funny Car.
Well, we'll see just how well that does now that he's moved up in class. Jose Souza.
As you can see, he is not a small guy either. Truck driver during the week. A 31-year-old just completed this fiberglass-bodied mud machine only a couple of weeks ago. This is only the third time out for this machine and its first at a national championship appearance. It's using a small block Chevrolet, believe it or not, with carburetors and gasoline. It's an extremely light vehicle, however, 2,100 pounds. and a lot of tire spin off the starting line, and Jose Souza runs into big-time problems. You can see a backfire through the carburetor shields there. As a matter of fact, just a little bit of fire coming out of those carburetor covers. And Jose runs into a timing problem or a fuel delivery problem that is going to keep him out of the money tonight. On the 5.83 seconds. Getting a wrap on the helmet from his son. This is the 1988 U.S. Hot Rod Association World Points Champion, not in the super modified class, but interestingly enough, in the unlimited tractor tire division. This is Len Wisniewski in the machine that his competitors call the Banana Boat, but it's better known as the original Outlaw 99. And Shelley, this is an amazing transition to take an unlimited class vehicle, very, very heavy piece of equipment, put short 44-inch tall cut tires on it, and run it competitively in the super modified class.
He's done remarkably well in the preliminary events. He's actually stayed competitive with some of our top guys.
Oh, there's no question. This thing can fly. It's a very, very unique chassis and body design. But he told everybody, hey, he was just going to switch it into the super modified class. Everybody kind of laughed, said you'll never be competitive. And he's proven them wrong. This thing can run under 2.5 seconds. Like I said, it's a heavy piece of equipment, but it will move if it gets the right traction off the starting line. Wisniewski in the cockpit, one of the most serious competitors in the U.S. Hot Rod Association Trail. Leaves the starting line, good run, and Len Wisniewski bouncing around down there. He actually ricocheted off the right-hand side berm when he shut it off the finish line. But Wisniewski's run may be good enough to put him in one of the top spots. Like I said, this thing flies. On the replay, the starting line launch, right there. The thing moves as soon as he hits the throttle and gets right up on the mud. Now, for a 3,000-pound vehicle, this thing is awesome, but you can see the front wheels cocked. That's what sends him into the berm at the finish line. But listen to this. The elapsed time, 2.29 seconds. That's good for number 3. Look at Glenn gritting his teeth, trying to steer it out of the ruts. Then it hooks the rut into the berm, throws him around in the cockpit, sends up a wall of mud, but still a 2.29. From a heavy, heavy machine. Unbelievable run. This guy is good. Well, pulling up onto the starting line is a machine that we've watched all year long, Shelley, and I'll tell you, it has become one of the most competitive of its type in the history of the association. Ed NOYKOS in physical therapy.
If there was ever an underdog in this event, it's got to be Ed. He seems to have some kind of a TV jinx, and he's hoping to overcome it.
The beautiful Chevy Blazer sitting patiently on the starting line as the ground crew hooks up the kill switch, the tow cable. This fuel-injected small block Chevrolet with nitrous oxide injection and an all-steel Chevy Blazer body is hoping to better his previous best elapsed time of 2.38 seconds. That's an incredible elapsed time. There's no question about it. Absolutely amazing elapsed time for any full-bodied vehicle. Now, earlier tonight, we saw Ground Zero run 2:35, which is the quickest run ever for a Chevy-bodied, full-bodied truck. So, indeed, Ed's got something to shoot for, and you can bet he wants to better that 2:38 that he recorded in Pontiac, Michigan earlier this season. The guy they call Lamont waits on the starting line, leaves the line very nicely. A good run, a lot of fire out of the pipes when the kill switch kicks in, but now driving it up and out. And Ed NOYKOS may indeed, despite the overheating we see on that engine, and that's overheating, that's not just steam, because we saw some smoke on the starting line before he left, may have indeed taken it into the 2-second zone. 8 seconds for Ed NOYKOS in physical therapy.
At least he didn't break anything on the car.
That's one of the first times we've seen him make it through the mud on ESPN. He never could seem to do it right in front of the cameras, but he finally gets it done.